that causes you to consider the condition. What I want to do tonight is talk about the cause of homosexuality, specifically the male condition. And we're going to be looking at the family dynamics that create the condition. And I know that there are maybe some mothers and fathers here, parents. And so this is not to be critical, not to make parents feel guilty or responsible. These are family dynamics that people unconsciously participate in. And even though we've worked with many, many parents, no mother or father ever wanted their child to have to deal with homosexuality. So try to understand that this is about information and not blame, of course. To begin with, homosexuality is not a sexual problem, it's a gender identity problem. That's the foundation.
Anybody can see this? If you are in the very back, come closer, please. Can you see it? Yes. So that it is the first statement that he says. Listen to me. Homosexuality is not a sexual problem. Not a problem of sexuality. It is actually a identity problem. What kind of identity? Gender. That's the first statement he makes. From the studies, the homosexuality, keep that in mind. Because this is the most important fact that you will learn today. It is not about sexuality. It is about identity. It's yes, the definition of myself is I have a problem to say who I am. It's not a problem who I sleep with. It's extremely important. Okay? Now, this is the first and the most important statement he will make.
Same-sex attraction. Homosexuality is not about sex. It's about a person's sense of himself, about his relationships, how he forms and establishes relationships, his self-identity, self-image, personal shame, his ability to sustain intimacy. Homosexual behavior is always, my wife said, be careful when you speak publicly, don't speak in absolutes. I'm saying homosexual behavior is always prompted by an inner sense of emptiness. I remember working with a physician after a couple of sessions, the client always comes in wanting to deal with his homosexuality, and it turns out that we don't even talk about the homosexuality, we talk about everything else. And he said to me, after a couple of months of therapy, he said to me, I realize that the good news is that I don't have a sexual problem. The bad news is that my problem is everything else. And he's absolutely right. To go over the details of the 4 gay myths, 10% of the populace of homosexuality, not true. It's really 1.5% to 2%.
So he's going to talk about the 4 lies that the culture promotes, especially the gay activists. They want us to believe 4 lies. And he's going to talk about those 4 lies. Remember, so the main item is homosexuality is not a sexual problem. It is identity problem. The 4 lies that you need to remember and recognize. They say 10% of population are homosexual. There is no studies. He's going to tell you how they came up with this number.
10% has been promoted by Kinsey, 1960s. It turns out Kinsey himself was a homosexual. Of course, that was never talked about, and it was picked up by the gay press. The gay activists were working with some people in the media, and they came up with 10%. In fact, recently we came across a meeting of gay and lesbian professionals, and Charles Silverstein said, well, we were working with some reporters, and we said 20%, and the reporter said, no, that's too high. And we said, well, 3%, no, how about 10%? The reporter said, yeah, 10% sounds good. And that's how they came up with 10%, and people have been believing 10%. You're born gay. That's one of the foundational myths of the homosexual, the gay movement. And they've been promoting the gay gene, 1991. Simon LeVay was supposed to have found biological evidence. I can tell you that there is no evidence, no conclusive evidence for a biological or a genetic foundation of homosexuality.
That's very
true. This is another fundamental principle of the gay movement.
There is nothing in medicine. I have studied medicine, and all my colleagues and all the friends in medical areas, we have not studied anything to do with genes or chromosomes that have genes that determine homosexuality and straight. There's nothing. Just don't believe that stuff. They want us to believe that so we don't really hate them. This is one of the reasons. At the end of it, we're going to have to learn how not to hate anybody. But let us see where these lies are going. There is one, we said, they're 10%. Studies show they're 1.5%. And the other one is born this way. We'll hear about what is in development, how the child is born, how a baby is thinking of his sex, of his gender. And the third one is once gay, always gay, and he's going to say something about that.
And this is why testimonies of individuals who have come out of homosexuality is such a threat to the gay movement. Because when an individual says, I was once homosexual and now I'm heterosexual, that is a fundamental challenge to the agenda. Because many public opinion studies show that if people believe gays are born this way, they're more likely to accept the homosexual.
Why they want us to believe that they're born this way? So you don't really feel hate toward them. It's not, they're innocent. They didn't do anything, right? And they are actually. They're innocent. They didn't do anything about it. But not born that way. Because born that way, it projected on a problem on God who made them. You see, that's the very interesting part. I grew up finding myself this way. I didn't do anything about it. Ma'am, yes, I believe you. But when you say I'm born that way, you're pushing it a bit farther than we need, and you're actually blaming it on God. And you say, God wanted me to be a gay. No. We're going to find out why a gay, or gay is one of the things is you have to differentiate between homosexual and gay. Gay, a person who accepted himself and said, this is the way I am, this is the way I'm going to be, I'm happy with myself, back off. I'm not interested in your opinion. But a homosexual is a person who has an interest, like I told you, in the same sex, but he might not be happy about it. So the last one here is saying, once gay, always gay means there's no way to change. There are people who actually got out of it and became heterosexual, got married, went on with their lives, they have families. When that happens, the gay community becomes very threatened. Because now here is someone who was a gay and now he is fixed. He's normal. He doesn't need to be suffering anymore. They say, no, we don't want to hear about that because people look at this and say, look, somebody was like this and he got treated. What about you?
But if there's any possibility of choice, then the acceptance of gays diminishes. Homosexuality is normal in every way. And this is another fundamental. It's just a question of taste. It's like vanilla or chocolate. There's nothing wrong except preference. In the media, in the movies, we see the gay character, the young gay character, especially on television, he's normal, well-adjusted, non-neurotic, wholesome, good-looking, at peace with himself. It's usually the heterosexual guy who's insecure and anxious about his sexuality. Tolerance versus approval.
Now, this is the last lie, is that in the media, on movies, you find the homosexual person very funny, good-looking, happy with himself. And the regular person is the angry one, the very insecure, that is frustrated and frustrating. You see that, and more of that right now, right? So that means they want to project him, they want to make that gay guy very normal. Actually, more normal than normal. You get that? So these are the lies. Now he's going to give a point that is very common in the Christian community, in our churches. Listen to this. This is extremely important. So the first principle we said, homosexuality is not about sex. It is about gender identity struggle. The 4 lies, gays are 10%, born that way, once gay, always gay, and the last one, gay, homosexuality is normal in every way. Let's talk about this one here.
Very important distinction. We're living in the culture of sound bites. And people are getting confused. We have to make a distinction between tolerance versus approval. We have to be tolerant of people living their life and seeking their happiness the way they want. But it doesn't mean that we have to give approval. And that's where Christians get confused. You know, if I don't approve, then I'm intolerant. No. We can make a distinction and talk about informed disapproval. Informed disapproval does not mean homophobia. Phobia means irrational fear of. We're not talking about irrational fear. We're just saying that we are disapproving of homosexual behavior as normal and natural and equivalent to heterosexuality based upon our education, based upon our studies, based upon coming to conferences like this today, based upon your faith tradition. Your faith tradition is a valid source of information, of education. Some Christians are made to believe that if you disapprove of homosexuality, science is against you. You know, you have religion, which is just a belief system, and then you have science. I can tell you the science supports biblical teachings on homosexuality.
Let me say this, because this is important actually. We get confused, listen to me, we get confused between accepting the gay person, the homosexual person, and loving him, and approving what he does if he wants to live in homosexuality. Let me tell you this. Listen to me. Does disagreeing with somebody, disapproving of their action means I don't love them?
No.
Give me an example of someone who love you the best, but they disapprove of things you do. And they're always fighting with you on what you do. And because they love you, they are disapproving. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Does disapproving always mean that I hate you?
No.
No. So that means sometimes they push us so hard, the gay community, to say, if you don't approve of what I'm doing, you hate me. That's not the case. Because I love you, I disagree with you. Because I love you, I tell you what you're doing is wrong. And not because I hate you. So sometimes we get confused, and some actually, when we were like maybe 5 years after ordination, this gay movement started, and then they put a lot of pressure on the Episcopalian Church, and they actually in the Episcopalian Church accepted this very much, and they ordained bishops. A bishop, Bishop Shah, I think, he's still, I think, a bishop, lives with another man. You know this, right? The bishop lives with another man. In New Hampshire, we know this. A gay bishop. The church was pressured so much to approve of them that they agreed to ordain priests and bishops of this community. What is that? But the Catholics didn't. The Catholics didn't. It was the Episcopalian.
Yes.
I used to have members from the Episcopalian Church come to our church in Haiti. An old man, he says, I cannot tolerate this anymore. We have our bishop and our priests are gays. We didn't hear about that. We didn't learn this when we grew up. The churches, the Christian churches, the Protestants especially, started to yield to the pressure. Okay? You understand how far this goes? It can go so far. It can go so far to make sure that nobody have homophobia. What's homophobia? You know what's arachnophobia? Do you hear about arachnophobia? What's arachnophobia? Fear of 8-legged insects. If you're afraid of spiders, you have arachnophobia. How about phobia of heights? You've heard about phobia of heights? Phobia of closed spaces. I have a weird phobia. I think claustrophobia, right? I have a weird phobia of agoraphobia. I'm really scared of loud crowds in a closed place. If you send me to the wrestling matches, I'll go nuts. You will not know me. So what's homophobia? A fear of gay activity or gay persons. They get so, and people with homophobia can kill them. They can kill them. So they're trying to push back and say we're here and we are normal, we are good, we love ourselves. Very good, it's okay. Don't force me to approve of what you're doing. I love you, yes, but disagree with you. So this is a very important distinction, and I'm going to ask you about it, okay? Yeah, what's that? Have what? A bad phobia? A bad phobia, yes. We should not have that phobia. We should not be having a phobia with any human being.
Can I tell them that I hate what you do, but I don't hate you?
It's difficult to say that to people. They don't. So that's what kids tell us sometimes. I tell parents to answer them. Kids say, "You don't love me." Why do I love you? Because you don't agree with what I'm doing. Your kids would say that. If you love me, just be okay with what I'm doing. Say no, of course not. Or say something else. Baba, you don't trust me? You hear that a lot. You don't trust me? Can I go and sleep over? No. You don't trust me? What Baba should say? What Baba should say?
But I don't trust the other. I trust you, but I don't
Okay.
trust the other.
I love all of you. And I want to say, but can I trust you to take my appendix out? Can I trust you to fly my plane?
No.
Can I trust you to all of you drive my car? Okay, so am I trusting you or I'm not trusting you? What do you realize here? Trust is a very loose word. Some things I trust you with, sometimes I don't trust you with something, which is okay. That doesn't mean I don't love you. But if you want to drive my car, you have to have a license. If you want to do my surgery, you have to have a doctor's license. If I want to trust you with sleeping over, you have to have a license too. And I'm going to give it to you, right? I know exactly when you can do that sleepover and when you're going to be okay with it. But not everything you say I'm going to do, I have to trust you with it. I love you, of course, but love you something and trust you is something else. Love you is unconditional. Whatever happens, I'm going to love you. But to do things, now we have to have licenses. We have to have, when we were in medicine, any procedure, we used to have catheter goes through the heart. We used to put it either from the neck or put it from the groin and goes all the way to the heart. And they would not let us do this. We have to watch it at least 6-7 times. And they sign off that we watch 7 times. And we have to help another 3 or 4 times. And then somebody else help us another 3 or 4 times. And after they make sure that we're doing it right, what do? They trust us. They sign us off. So this is important. Now let us continue on with this. So you want to wonder how this happened. Why a person become a gay? It's not born this way.
Gay versus homosexual. It's very important for us to make a distinction
Listen to
between
this.
these
What's
two
the
words.
difference between gay and
Because
homosexual?
gay activists would have us believe that gay and homosexual are synonymous. So if you're debating, if you're talking to someone, know the difference between these two terms. Gay is a social, political identity. It's basically saying homosexuality is normal and natural for me. That's a gay identity. That's different from homosexual. Homosexual is simply a description of sexual preference. It's a psychological condition. The people that come to our clinic are dealing with homosexuality, are homosexual, but they're not gay identified. They reject the gay self-label.
You know, my wife's like, what'd you do? After, 6 months of doing this, she's seeing all the changes that are happening. And she says, I want to do this. Yeah, I'm in for it.
If you're trying to lose belly fat.
Next one. Yeah.
Now that I've made that distinction, I'm going to confuse you a little more by saying there's no such thing as a homosexual.
Okay, before we go there, this is crazy now. Now, did you get the difference between what's a homosexual and what's a gay?
Yes.
A homosexual is a psychological thing, what they feel. Inside of me, I get disgusted thinking about the other sex. I'm only comfortable to have a relationship and intimate and sex with the Same sex. But when you talk about a gay, this is a definition for somebody who is facing the community, facing the culture, and saying, I'm happy this way, this is who I am, this is how you're going to address me. And that's why you get all these LGBTQ. You have to change the way you talk to me about me. I'm not he, I'm not she, I'm not it. Say they. This is psychological or it is political and social. It's a social and political. You get what I'm saying? My face, what I want the people to see me. I want to be with this group. I want to be addressed as this group. And here he's going to talk about this. I say, how do you, because let's say that somebody is vegan. You hear about that, vegan. What's the difference between vegan and vegetarian?
Dairy.
It's the difference in milk. If they eat milk, and milk products, they are vegetarian. So during the fast of Saint Mary, we are pescatarian. We're eating fish. Good job. We're eating fish. We are pescatarian. But then, how can you define a person by being a vegan or vegetarian? Okay, let me say this. Goats are vegan. Bunnies are vegan. So we call a human being a bunny. It's the same group as the goats and the bunnies. So what's the difference? What is he going to say here? A human being should not be identified by an aspect. You cannot identify a person by being a vegan or homosexual, because that is saying this is all what a human being is. A human being is a human being. Do you get what he's trying to say? This is not a way to define a human. This is actually wrong. What's he saying? Let's see.
There's no such thing as a homosexual. We are all heterosexual. But some of us heterosexuals have a homosexual problem. It's amazing how the gay activists have taken a word that once described a condition to encompass the total personality. He is a homosexual. It's like saying he is an alcoholic. Are we saying that intoxication is a normal state of mind for this person? He has a condition. I remember a father calling me up a little while ago. He said, our 15-year-old son just announced that he's a homosexual, and we want to trust someone like you as psychologist to tell us, is he homosexual or not? I said, he's not. I said, you haven't even seen him yet. I don't have to see him. If he's a man, does he have a penis? He's heterosexual. To be very simplistic, but true. So homosexuality is not intrinsic to our true nature. It violates the natural law, and which is, by the way, the natural law compatible with our Christian faith. Even some of our church leaders are actually confused and believe God made two kinds of people, homosexuals and heterosexuals. No. Homosexuality as a gender identity disorder. In the treatment of our clients, we always go back to this. And they lose sight of it sometimes. Two gay men are standing on the street corner, and a beautiful woman walks by. And one gay guy says to the other, it's moments like this that I wish I was a lesbian.
Do you get the joke?
Because he's confused, you understand? Can we be like that?
Do you get the joke?
So, this is a joke. Just two gay people, two homosexual men standing on a corner. So, a beautiful woman going by. So he's saying to his friend, in a moment like this, I wish I was. He should have said, he is a gay. He should have said, straight. Right? Because straight men likes beautiful women. But instead of saying, I wish I was a straight man, he says, I wish I was
Lesbian.
So he has to be abnormal in whatever condition. So we actually have some interest in the beautiful woman. But instead of saying that interest is good for a good man, for a normal man, he's saying, I wish I was a lesbian. Because in their mind, everything has to be homosexual. You get it? So if he has a feeling toward the woman, he has to be a gay woman. A lesbian. Alright.
Folks, alright?
You couldn't understand the jokes of the She's
Okay
angry.
with it. So homosexuality is not about sex, it's about self-identity. Homosexuality is based in the masculine inferiority, and it's a striving to connect with the masculinity lacking within himself. All right, so let's go through the whole developmental process, okay?
Here we go. It's going to look how a homosexual become a homosexual.
I'll be focusing on the male homosexual condition, okay? I'm going to put the female creation, lesbian formation aside for a while. Like all things feminine, it's more complicated to talk about. It's full of contradictions, so we're not going to get into that later. All right. People say, do you work with lesbians? I said, no, I only work with male homosexuals because lesbians have an irrational, when you work with, they have an irrational anger toward men. And I get enough of that at home. Now there's too much left. Can we get a little serious? It's getting out of hand there. Okay, so we start with, we're talking about the gender identity phase. The gender identity phase is from 1.5 to 3 years old. That's the time when the child, especially the boy, begins to notice that the world is divided between male and female. Until then, many studies, child studies, show that the child at the earlier age doesn't make that distinction. But now he begins to realize that the world is divided between male and female, and which one is he going to be? As Richard Green from UCLA said, or actually Robert Stoller, who was an early student of this, said masculinity is an achievement. And we have to understand that masculinity is an achievement. It doesn't come.
Here is something that's very interesting and exciting to learn about. How the homosexual become a homosexual. You would notice here every time he's talking about something, he's referring it to a research. Somebody who studied it. So let me just give you a synopsis, so I don't want you to lose interest now. Wake up and listen to this. This is important. So they say, when you study the development of a baby after they are born from their mother, baby is just come out of their mother. What do you think in their little mind, how they perceive themselves? How they perceive themselves. Now each of you says I, and I means you alone. But what about the baby? What's the I for the baby? If the baby is able to say I, what does it mean? For the baby, the I means her or him and his mom. Why? Because they were one, right? Imagine he was inside of her. He doesn't know what he is inside. He's like in a space connected with this little tube. He doesn't need to breathe. He doesn't need to eat. He doesn't need to speak. He's comfortable and happy, warm, protected. He doesn't feel anything, but he is in this space. And that space is his mom. So when he comes out, or she comes out, they think this creature is me, the bigger me. But then after crying for a few times, what does they discover? Oh, wait a minute. She's not me. If it was me, I would have not needed to cry. And slowly in the little mind, they develop what we call individuation. Individuation means I am actually not this creature. She and I are not
The same.
we're not one. But he or she thinks they are of the same kind. We are of the same kind. Oh, for this, they will say, I'm human, she's human, whatever. For that baby, there is no genders. It's gender neutral, it's it. But then they say from 1 year, after 1 year, he's completely aware that he is an individual, the mother is another individual, he has to call on her to come to feed him, or to feed her, to clean, to take care of, to hold until they sleep. They're always now aware they are not one thing, they are two. But then two of the same kind. Because in the mind of the little baby, they don't know any other kind. But slowly after the first year, they say from 1.5 years, this is a very important time, to 2 years. From 1.5 years to 2 or 3 years, 1.5 to 3, the child started, or the baby starts to realize actually the world is two worlds. There is males and there is females. Before that, there is no idea. No idea that there is boys and girls. But then after that, they notice that they're actually the Baba and Mama. There is a boy and a girl. And then the question comes up. Who do I belong to? Here is something very important happens, which will decide the fate of the child for the rest of their life, especially the boy. The girl doesn't do much. So by definition, by default, all the babies are girls. By default, all the babies are girls because mom. It is the boy who has to make a decision to be a boy. The girl doesn't have to take any decisions, which later on, if you follow me, will make a very big impact on how a man behaves. Who gets to propose? Right? So the man is the one who makes the initiation. It's very odd for a girl to propose to a boy. That's very weird, right? It casts a different color on the girl, right? She becomes a little bit masculine, right? So that decision the little boy at 1.5 years makes will decide for the rest of his life how he identifies himself. Because in that decision that he takes unconsciously, he makes the decision for life to be a man. That's what he's going to talk about. What makes this process happen? It needs the triad, 3. The father or the male, it can be somebody else. The mother, and then the boy himself. That's the triad. First, the mother should be able to facilitate it, to make it happen, to encourage it. Because he's going to leave her identity, and start assigning his identity to the father. The father has to receive him. So that in a way, you can imagine it this way. The mother is handing over the boy, and the father is receiving him and welcoming him. Come to the world of men. Here is my boy. Here is the bride of the family. And then the child has to do it, has to make the transition. So the 3 has to participate in this. What if the mother is holding too tight and doesn't want to give? What if the father is not receiving for some whatever reason he doesn't want? He's shying off and he's cutting off and he's cold and he's just, every time the boy is trying to come to the father is actually pushing him back. What would the boy feel about himself? Rejected. I'm not good. The boy in this case, they don't really have enough mind and strength to say, there's something wrong with this guy. No, they don't say that. They say, it must be something wrong with me. Me is not good enough. Me is not good enough to be accepted by my father. This is a heartbreaking. And once that happens, they will never identify themselves with the man. This is why it is a gender identity problem. Let's see what he's talking about. It's a heart-wrenching, actually. Think about this. It's really heartbreaking. You might cry if you just focus with it for a second. There's nothing wrong with them. All what happened is their dynamic, a family dynamic, that pushed them back, that made them feel not welcome in the man world.
Naturally, he's wired to be masculine, but he needs the support of the mother and the father and the culture to...
What does it mean wired to be a man? Wired to be masculine?
He was born.
Everything in him, in his body, says that he is. His genital organs, his predisposition, should be received in the world as a man. But something wrong happened in that reception as he is accepted into the world. What happened?
Make that transition from identification with the mother to bonding with the father. To do that, you need a mother who's willing to let the boy go and move beyond her sphere, and a father who is welcoming and supportive. And I use the word seductive, but in the sense of being interesting. Who is this guy? What is he about? I'm care. I want to connect with him. And so he leaves the mother and reaches out to the father. Now that's a challenge to all children, and the child goes through what they call an androgynous phase. The androgynous phase, androgyny means both male and female. The androgynous fantasy is that I can be male and female. I don't want to have to make a choice. I am special. That's the infantile narcissism. I am special, I can be both. And when you look at gay writings, you still see that. It's part of the gay agenda. It's not just civil rights. It's about transforming the distinction between male and female and blurring it, and making it an option, making it up to the individual to determine if he wants to be male or female. He's wired for that masculine ambition, so he disidentifies with the mother and bonds with the father. Now, for our clients, the boy reaches out to the father, and he experiences the father as not interested in him. Either the father is cruel, mean, or in most cases, just not emotionally present to the boy. So the boy reaches out, sees that the father is disinterested in him, and he has a collapse. He has a shutdown, deflation. We call that shame. He's been narcissistically wounded. And he essentially gives up his masculine strivings. He gives up. I can't connect with this guy. He is making me feel unworthy. I can't win him over. And this is the internalization. This is really the problem. The child is not saying there's something wrong with him. The child is saying there must be something wrong with me. And that's the key of a homosexual problem. The therapy is all about, there's really nothing wrong with you. You are masculine. Let's get you to feel and actualize your masculinity so that you don't need to eroticize other men. You got it. Yeah, so that's the foundation of it. So the guy with the homosexual problem is living in an anticipatory shame posture.
He called it, listen to this. This is psychological terminology, it's a little bit jargon. He lives in anticipatory shame. That's anticipation. What's anticipation? Anticipation means expecting something to happen. Shame. What's he expecting? Something good? No. So always in his interactions with males, a homosexual, with interactions with males, with men, he's expecting what? The same thing happened with his dad. That he will be rejected, he will be looked down as not enough. That little boy, something happens. That's why we say to mothers when they are pregnant, that's another parable. Don't take medicines you don't need to take. Try to avoid medicine. Ask about everything you take because it's going to hurt the child when they're still forming. When you hurt the baby when they're still forming, the damage is small or big? Huge, because they're little. So this little boy in their psychology, they're just forming, and the father had hurted him very big while they're still forming. You think how big is this damage? It's huge. So he's living in anticipatory shame, always expecting that something wrong with him when he's dealing with other men. They're going to look down on him, they're going to reject him, they're going to call him wuss, or and unable to do things. He's not man enough. So what does he do usually? What would he do? Avoid males, by all means. He's more comfortable to be friends with girls. See, he's more comfortable to be friends with girls, and he's not interested in girls. It's very safe. The girls who are friends of gay, it's very safe. He's not going to touch me. He's not interested. He's very much interested with males because he thinks he has something to get from them. He longs to be like them, but he doesn't know how, which is a different thing. Let me just tell you this. Are you okay this far? Do you understand what's going on? Are you? Let me just move a little bit further. A homosexual in their relationship with another boy is different than a boy relationship with a girl. When they sleep together, let me just tell you about this intimate relationship. What does the boy want from another boy when they sleep together? You don't know. They want their masculinity. They want their manhood. They long to have this man. If you ask any boy, and I ask them in confession, what do you look at for pornography? They say, we look for big muscular guys, older men with big builds and strong, but yet kind. So after we sometimes in therapy they tell them, let us bring back. I think it's so uncomfortable, but after you move on from this erotic part, this sexual part, the fantasy, they discover they're very sad. They come down to sadness. They cry. Why? Because they realize what they're doing is trying to get that masculinity. They're trying to get that man to be him. When I sleep, they have this subconsciously, people projection. When I sleep with this man, in the subconscious tells them, you will get what this man has. But what happens when a man sleeps with a woman? Does the man, when he sleeps with a woman, wants to have masculinity from her? What do they feel? The woman makes the man feel more like a man. It highlights, that relationship highlights the man. And the relationship in the sexual interaction between man and woman makes the woman feel more than like a woman. It's totally different. You see what I mean? But for a homosexual man to sleep with a homosexual man, he's trying to get something that he doesn't have from that man, and he thinks by sleeping with them, he would, it's subconscious, it's not really conscious. So this is why, just to continue this, maybe you can stop here and then ask questions. Homosexual relationships, sexual relationships with another, the same sex, is never faithful. In a study, few studies were done. One of them was 146 relationships. We asked them, have you cheated on your partner ever? Guess what the answer was? How much percent? Huh? How many of them really cheated on their partners? 100%. There is zero fidelity in the relationship between homosexuals. Don't be cheated. They stick together with the knowledge. And any day, I might go out and have a relationship with someone. Very simple. Why? Why they have to have another person to sleep with? Why? I just said it. Because the relationship is not fulfilling. It doesn't give them what they need. Let me just say it simply. A homosexual man does not sleep with a straight man. A straight man will not sleep with a homosexual man. A straight man will sleep with a woman because he's a man, right? The two homosexuals want to feel, it's very sad to smile about it and smirk about it, but this is the reality. A homosexual man is not man enough in himself. Like I said, it's not a problem with sexuality, it's a problem with he doesn't feel himself to be a masculine enough. So he wants it from another man who doesn't have it. Both of them don't have it. So when they sleep together, they come back feeling not fulfilled. That's why they have to keep trying. And that's why, go further a little bit, I came to this country in the 90s, the beginning of the 90s. Anybody remember what happened in the beginning of the 90s? It's the AIDS epidemic, HIV. And where was HIV very prominent, very likely? Huh? No, but in the country, in this country. Which group? Gays. HIV was very prevalent in the gay community. Guess what's happening now? Have you heard about monkeypox? Where is it very prominent? In the gay community. They don't want to talk about it. Hush, hush. Don't even bring HIV again. Why? Why it is very prevalent in the gay community? Because they go to different partners and they're not stuck together. It's not satisfying. By nature, this relationship has to be promiscuous. What's promiscuous? Multiple partners. You have to go from one to another, like the bees, right? So what happens when the bees goes from one flower to another? They transmit the pollens, but in this case, they transmit the bugs, the monkeypox. We are not judging them. We don't judge them, but we want to say, look. May God give you eyes to see this. If this was a normal relationship with transmitted diseases, it shouldn't. And they want us to believe that the relationship between a homosexual and a homosexual, a gay and a gay, is perfect. They get married and live happily ever after. And they can adopt kids. But actually, it is not perfect. It's not satisfying. Listen to all the gays who came out of it. And they will tell you, we were never happy. There's something missing, always. As many people we sleep with, and it's disgusting to think about two males sleeping together. I mean, we know that God has given the man a penis and testicles, and the woman have vagina and uterus. and they fit together nicely, but they have to go around that in the gay relationship. They have to go around that, use something that's not meant for sex in a sexual relationship. It's disgusting. Well, again, we don't judge them. We just want to see how God made things normal and how it fits normally. A key and a keyhole. If I give you 2 keys, can you open anything? No. Or lock anything? No. If I give you 2 keyholes, can you unlock or lock anything? That nature itself teaches us this is not normal. So the psychology is not normal, and the biology is not normal. Now, why we have to go around and believe them? So when you go, and I'm going to ask you the question, so do you have any question for me? I don't want to go anymore on that. Do you have any questions for me? If you don't have, I'm going to ask. What's the main problem in homosexuality? Is it a sexual problem? No. It is gender identity problem. When is the critical time this happened? Is it something somebody born with, or it happened at a certain time? What is that time?
1.5 years.
1.5 to 3 years, right? Let me ask you this. What is the percentage of homosexuals in the Greek community?
1.5%.
1.5%. 1.5 to 2 maximum. What is the problem? Is it a biological problem, or it is a developmental problem? Developmental problem. Let me ask you, do they have any part in it? Are the kids responsible, the homosexual people responsible for it? No. It is the family setup. There's different versions of it. I don't want to bore you, but I've dealt with homosexual kids in my profession, and I know exactly every one of them says, I hate my father. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I have no memory of what happened, but must be something. My father did something very bad. I don't remember it, but I hate him. I can't tolerate him. And it's very simple, because when he was 1.5 years, he wouldn't remember anything, right? The next question, should we love homosexuals?
Yes.
Or should we hate them? Or should we do nothing? Hate nor love. Give me the answer.
Hate the ideas.
Do we love homosexuals or we hate them? We love them. Can a homosexual be saved? How can a homosexual be saved? Good.
Really?
Yes, he can. Can a gay be saved? No. And because gay is active and they identify themselves this way. But how about a homosexual? Can be saved? Yes, of course. Let me tell you, is homosexual acts, is a man sleeping with a man more wrong than a boy and a girl sleeping before marriage? Is it more or less, or is it the same? It's the same. Absolutely. But there are homosexual saints. I will tell you something, there is a lot of history that the people who had homosexual feelings went and became saints and martyrs. It doesn't mean anything. We actually, in fact, listen to me. When you have a problem, when you have a crush on someone, or you have struggled spiritually, you have friends. They will not be disgusted with you. But a homosexual person who's struggling with homosexual desires, does he have anybody to talk to? Usually, not really. Not really. They are alone, and they're fighting alone. If they stand against their desire and not sin, is that righteous or it's sin? It's very righteous, right? There are many homosexuals who are actually fighting to be pure, which is good. Something very holy, and God approves of this, and actually God cries for them, because they have been hurt when they were little, and now they are alone for some reason. They have not been guilty. They didn't really do anything together. So this is something for us to think about. We love homosexuals, we accept them, and we support them, but we don't agree with what if they become gays now, and they come up and say, I'm going to live with someone, the hell with the church, I don't want to hear to you, I don't listen to you, I don't want to hear anything from you, I'm this way, you accept me this way, or else I say, you have to repent. If someone comes to me and says, Abuna, I am 18 years old, it's about time to have a girlfriend, we're going to live together, I don't approve of what the church is teaching about purity. What would I say? And we don't approve of what you're doing. You're welcome to come if you wear this, repenting. If If you repent, you're very welcome to be here. And your struggles are common. We are all familiar with it. All of us had crushes. All of us had temptations. All of us had lusts. Even Jesus was tempted with the same problems. Do you know that? Jesus was tempted with lust, with desires, with gluttony, with pride. Jesus was tempted with all these things. So that means we are sinners. Let me just define one more thing. The difference between temptation and sin. Is temptation sin? Is temptation sin?
Not unless you act.
Then it becomes a... So what is temptation? It's an enticement, an invitation to do something wrong. But if you fight it, you're a saint. If you fall, you are a sinner. Is that the end of the story? No. We have a place to stand up, repent, and fight again. It's like soldiers in a war. You get hurt, you get treated, go back fighting again. Okay. Any other questions you have for me? Yes. Yes.
The first question that we see churches have the rainbow. What are the kind of these churches and which Bible do
That's
they
not a
follow?
church. First of
It
all,
has
I
a
will
cross.
put-
It has a cross sign.
let me just tell you something. What is a church? Just to define church. I like definitions. In science, when we grow up learning things, we learn first definitions. Okay, what's the definition of a church? A true church is? No, wait a second. I want you to know this for sure. This is the true church. And that's why we have this icon. This is the heart of the church. This is a church. Don't be fooled. A church has to have a bishop. Has to have the Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ, and has to have the believers. This is the mother church. This is the icon of the church. A church has to have a bishop, a canonical bishop, come from a holy synod, come from the apostles. It has to have the Eucharist every Sunday, and it has to have the believers. So when one day I was giving a Bible study in Chapel Hill, and I said to the kids, Belgium College, I said, Protestants are not churches, we don't call them churches. And he said, Warren, you're a fanatic. I said, call me whatever you want to call me. I don't know what's the definition of a fanatic. Let's agree on the fanatic definition too. He said, what do you mean? I said, look, wait a second. Let's see here in Charlotte. I got very much Carolina that I forgot the names. In Charlatan. And you have, Abuna is not here. God keep his life and keep him. And you have no priest. And you come every Sunday, you read the Bible, you sing songs, and you have a meal together, and you have a sermon from YouTube. Can you call yourself a church? Can you? Okay. Did you see that you are hypocrites? Did you find that? You are hypocrites because you call them churches when they are doing these things, but to yourself you don't call it church.
But for the world,
You understand what I'm saying?
they seem like a church.
I'm just asking. So we, if we don't have a priest and have a liturgy every Sunday, we don't call ourselves a church. We cannot write on the website, the Church of St. Mary, because you're expecting people to come and say, where's the liturgy? Right? Where's the Odes? But then you call them a church, and they are in the same situation. So actually they came out of the church because they hated the church. They didn't want to have a bishop. They didn't want to have a liturgy because it would require a priest. And they said, we're going to just sing songs, listen to a sermon, and have a meal together. That's it. And they want us to call them a church. Are they Christians? Yes. They are Christians, but they are not a church. We get it? So when you see a group of Christians, I'm going to just say that, denomination, whatever it is, have a rainbow, and they are trying to welcome the people. I don't know what they're doing with it. Maybe they want people to come to them and to have like an open arms. I hope they're teaching them repentance. You see what I mean? This is a political, to have the rainbow, it's a political statement. What you do with it is a different thing. That's what I would say. I don't think I would judge them, nor I would actually say what they're doing is wrong. Just, I'm going to say, what are you doing when you're bringing these people in? You're going to say to them, you're perfect, nice, and good the way you are. Keep going on with your relationship with the partner. Have anal sex. You're fine. You're happy. Go to heaven. This is confusing, right? But they say no, it is wrong. The Bible says it's wrong to have a relationship, whether it's male, female, male, female. It's very wrong if you're not married. but Abuna, you're judging these people not to have life, not to have love. I said, they're not looking. You really don't understand. Once you understand, they're not looking for love. They're looking for something they're missing. They have emptiness. They want to be fulfilled. Love is a totally different thing. Love doesn't fulfill me. Love is looking after someone else. And in that looking after someone else, mutually, I'm fulfilled. Does not seek its own. But then they encourage people to get into relationships and keep it. And I cannot say this is actually even biblical. That's not Christian. Yes. Do you get that? So just having a rainbow doesn't mean anything. Yes. Can we have our next question?
The next question is for the high schoolers. In each high school have a club called LGBTQ club, and when we don't, our kids didn't join the activities there. They're
going to be persecuted.
Yes, they push them more and more to get into. Why you didn't come? Why you didn't come and know the idea? I don't know the idea. And when he escaped from them, they started to push more and more because they find this person didn't like us.
That's why we have to have this education.
So what we should learn them to speak or to speak to the other persons.
I would ask everyone in every high school to ask them what is right for you. Just before we go and tell them what to do, what's right? This person here, that Joseph Nicolosi, I told you he died in 2017. He started doing this when he was 35. He was kicked out of the American Association of Psychologists. He was persecuted from the prison, from Obama, like I told you, all the way to the newspaper people. Everybody hated him, but not a single person could actually answer the things that he was saying scientifically. When it came to science, they were quiet. You're a false scientist. Tell me what's the true science. What you're saying is wrong. Tell me what's right. Nobody is telling him anything. I looked. All the people that attack him are just ridiculing him. It's a personal attack. You know what a personal attack is? You're wrong, you're false, you're wishy-washy, you're not true. Okay, tell me the truth. And he was very stable. You see, he was very calm. He knows what he's talking about. So he never actually attacked personally. He attacks and says, okay, so give me the answer. Tell me what I'm doing is wrong so I can actually go on with my research. Don't attack me subjectively. In other words, subjective, just attacking my words and feelings. Go and say, this is the truth, this is your lies. I'm happy. So I want us to be the same in high school. In high school, say to yourself, what do I really believe? Take a stand with yourself and say, what do I really believe? And then what I'm helping you today is to know, so that you actually understand. When you understand, you make a statement for yourself and say, this is what I believe, this is what I go and research more. But then at the end, do what's right, what you believe in. Don't do what anybody else is pushing you to do. Does that make sense? Don't be shy, don't be pushed down, and don't be hateful. Just be like this person. He is very neutral when he speaks with confidence, he speaks with courage. That's nobility, like a knight. They say this. One time I read in a story, they say a man is always, when they chafe him, when they tease him, he gets out and blah, 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 and speaks all kinds of profanity and speaks bad words and says. So his teachers told him, don't be like a kitchen girl. Be like a knight. When the knight draw their sword, they mean to do what? To kill. They don't draw their swords to threaten somebody. So you want to speak something truthful, speak something powerful, and have the courage to do it with love and with stability. Don't show the person in front of you that you are afraid or unable to defend yourself or unable to defend your opinion. So believe what you believe and stand up for it. You will be persecuted, no doubt, you will be persecuted. And if you run away from persecution in this time, what are you going to do 10 years from today? What are we going to do?
Be on the side.
Huh?
On the side.
No, say I don't have time for it. You can say that. I don't have time for the meetings. I have much more things to do. When I get a chance, I'll think about it. That's it. Yeah. If they push you so hard, they say, okay, why do I cannot attend all the meetings? Why do you push me that far? I don't need to be pushed. If it's something good and I think about it, I'll come to it. But I'm not interested. I don't want to be in this meeting. It's okay. It's fine. Nobody should push us to do things that we don't know. We don't want. That's not good at all. Not in the church, not outside the church. But if you are convinced and you know it's the truth, you have to stand for it. And you have to say, this is what I think. They push you. What did Jesus say? He didn't say what Jesus said. He said, be wise as serpents, but be meek as dogs. And I love this because it gives us an image. How serpents are wise? Tell me how serpents are wise. I've seen lots of serpents around here. They're not harmful. Harmful serpents in North Carolina. We have something called copperheads. They're vicious. Vicious. When they bite, the place they bite is dead. If the person survives. So how serpents are wise? I studied them, yeah? You cannot see them twice. If the serpent saw you in place, if you look for it in that place again, you'll never find it. Why? Because they know the humans are their enemies. They're going to kill them. So if they saw you in a place, they will never go that place again. But then why is he saying with it, be meek as dogs? Because a poisonous serpent, if the serpent is trying to escape and leave, but it finds no place, what does the serpent do? It has to fight, and it bites. So he's saying, be wise as serpents, but meek as dogs, meaning that when you're cornered, you're not going to hurt. You're going to surrender and just not be harmful. So what Jesus is saying, in the people, in the culture we live in, the community we live in, if I can fight, if I can run away, I will run away. But if I cannot run away, then I will not be harmful. You get that? So that's when Jesus was surrendered. He wanted it in Gethsemane. And Peter took out the sword and he wanted to defend Jesus. What did he say? We're not supposed to do that. Be meek as a dog, right? Okay. Yes.
احنا درسنا في الكلية عن السيكولوجي في احنا النورمال بتاعنا ان احنا البني ادم زي ما هو اتخلق يعني بنت ولد وحتى لو جوه بيبقى مثلا مولود كامل ولد لكن هم في الكلية بيقولوا لو واحد is non-sexual like non-sex identified يبقى normal يعني ممكن يلبس اللي هو عايزه.
وده اللي بيدرسوه في المدارس دلوقتي والجامعات ان هو كل واحد يحدد الجندر بتاعه.
يا بس انا عندي سؤال كمان لو مثلا هي ولد من بره وبيتكلم يعني الفويس بتاعه ولد والهرمونز ولد وكل حاجه لكن عنده بروبلم ان هو يعني
حاجه نفسيه.
لا بنت من تحت.
لا حاجه عضويه.
عضويه.
في حاجات بيسموهم في حاجات هي كنا زمان ندرسها في حاجه اسمها كلاين فلتر وترنر وترو هيرمافرودايت. ده حاجات حصل لخبطه في الجنين وهو صغير وطلع عنده الاعضاء متلخبطه. بالمناسبه في الامبريو there is no boys and girls in the embryo. Genes can decide that, but there is actually the testicles are made near the kidney. But then as the embryo develops, they start coming down until they go to the scrotum. But the testicles are made up near the kidney. How about the ovaries? They're made near the kidney and they stay near the kidney. The organs of the boy and the girl are actually almost the same. But the boy's organ are coming out and the girl's organ are staying in. But they're exactly the same. Everything. The prostate is the uterus. The ovaries are the testicles. We can go into the details.
Yeah, yes. One of the priests told me to be normal, they need to like يعني مثلا يعمل عملية.
Yes, يعمل عمليات.
ماشي بس أنا عندي سؤال لو مثلا واحد.
بس هذا نادرة جدا. 2 في المليون 3
Yes,
في
I
المليون.
know في الكنيسة لكن هنا ككوبتك كوميونتي بس برا بتحصل.
في الحالات اللي زي دي احنا بنشوف الشخص اتجاهاته ايه. اتربى ازاي؟ نفسيته شكلها في الحالات دي.
انا عندي بقيت
بس هم ما بقاش
السؤال.
عندهم خصوبه اصلا، ما بيعرفوش يخلفوا.
لا في ناس بيبقى لو هو يعني يقدر، بس يعني لو هيتجوز حد تاني بنفس
انا بتكلم عن حاجات نادره جدا جدا.
I know، بس انا I wanna because هم بيقولوا عادي، لكن what do we say؟
انا مش فاهم السؤال.
So
اصل الناس اللي بتتكلم عليهم دول ما عندهمش مشاكل اصلا في العضويه، ما عندهمش مشاكل عضويه.
yes، بس نقدر نقول لهم غيروا كده
لا
ولا
طبعاً.
بعدين
انا ما نشجعش حد
هتبقى
يغير.
مشاكل
هي خلينا نبص عليها كده.
مش هيقدروا
احنا بنحاول نعالج مشكله ومشكله جديده. يعني هو عنده مشكله نفسيه انه ما اتقبلش. الاباء هم المشكله في القصه دي. الاباء والامهات مع بعض، بس الاب اكتر. الاب هو المشكله بتاعت الجيز والاثنين. وليه؟ وانا هقول لكم الموضوع لو بتفكروا فيه لاهوتيا، الصوره الكبيره هي صوره الله. لما بيجي نصلي ربنا بنقول له ايه؟ ابانا الذي. الصوره الكبيره بتاعت الله الاب هي دي الصوره الكبيره. فلو الاب هيبقى فيه مشكله هيعمل مشاكل كبيره جدا. الاب مشكلته مشكله الدنيا كلها، هو اللي مدمر المجتمع ده. لما الاباء يبتدوا ما يبقوش اباء، المشكله بتاعت الشذوذ بتحصل لها ايه؟ تكتر، هتزيد. هيطلع عينين الزوجه اللي بيدمنوا الكحول والمخدرات وكده، طلع عيالهم كلهم خربانين. لكن انا هصلح المشكله دي بان اعمل لهم مشكله عضويه كمان. طب ما الاسهل ان انا اصلح مشكله نفسيه. وده اللي الراجل ده بيحاول يعمله. هو دي انا عايز اسمي دي الحقيقه الرحومه اللي فيها رحمه. لان المجتمع هنا خد الناس الشواذ دول. طب ليه الحكومه عايزاهم يفضلوا كده؟ وليه الحكومه عايزاهم يعملوا لنفسهم؟ ليه الحكومه بتشجع ده؟ لا، بسيطه جدا. البلد دي حزبين. حزب تقليدي اللي هو المحافظين، حزب محافظ، وده حزب مسيحي هو اللي قريب جدا من الكنايس وكده، وفي الحزب الديمقراطي اللي ضد الحزب ده. فالحزب المسيحي بيقول ايه؟ كنيسه وربنا وكتاب مقدس والى اخره. هم سياسيين اكتر من اي حاجه ثانيه. مش هنقول ان هم حزب 100% كويس يعني. لكن الحزب الثاني عشان يمسك الدنيا قال كل الناس اللي ضد الموضوع ده هنديهم قيمتهم ونعمل لهم ايه مكان. فمن ضمنهم مين؟ فهل من مصلحه الحزب الديمقراطي ان يتوب الناس دي؟ طب هم هيجيب ناس منين؟ ده هو قايم على الاقليات. فخلينا نشجع الايه؟ الهوموسيكشوال ونحسسهم ان لهم مكانه كبيره في البلد، وهنشجع السود نحسسهم ان لهم مكانه كبيره. مش واخدين بالكم من الافلام بتاعت السود وظلم السود كترت اليومين دول؟ هي المفروض ان الموضوع ده صح، لكن هم متكين عليه جامد ليه قوي؟ عشان دول اللي هينتخبوهم. الاقليات دي هي اللي هتنتخبهم، السود والاسبان والشواذ. فالموضوع السياسي دوره كبير جدا، عايز يحافظ عليهم زي ما هم، علشان هم دول اللي هيعملوا ايه؟ اللي هينتخبوه. وكل اصحابهم، ما مش هم بس، ما هم في كل المجتمع ده فكر ذكي جدا. واحد شاذ الناس متعاطفه معاه هيعملوا ايه؟ هينتخبوا الديمقراط عشان خاطر ده هيدوا له مكانه. فمش بس هو، كمان الناس اللي حواليه. قال لك ده مظلوم. الجماعه بتوع الكنيسه ظلموه، الجماعه المحافظين ظلموه، هنا ارتبط الكنيسه مع المحافظين. فبالتالي اللي عكس الكنيسه بقى ايه؟ ديمقراط. وصلت؟ فاحنا بدل ما الراجل ده رحيم ليه؟ لانك قال لك ايه؟ انتوا نسيتوا الناس دي. انتوا معتبرينهم ماده سياسه. معتبرينهم كارت بتلعبوا بيه. لكن ما بتدوروش عليهم، تشوفوا حياتهم شكلها ايه؟ دول مزروا. احنا محتاجين نساعدهم. انتوا مش بتبصوا لهم عشان تساعدوهم، انتوا بتبصوا لهم عشان تعملوا ايه؟ تستفيدوا منهم. وصلت؟ الراجل ده عنده رحمه وعنده فكر مسيحي صح. قال لك سيبك من الموضوع السياسي، انا مش عايز سياسه، ماليش فيه. انا عايز كل واحد منهم ده حياه شكلها ايه؟ وندور بقى عشان نصلحها ونعمل لهم ايه؟ ولا واحد من الناس السياسيين فكر في يوم انه يقول الناس دي تعبانه في ايه ولا لا. انت عايز تبقى كده هنخليك كده، بس انا هشجعك، انا هعبرك، انا هساعدك، هحقق لك كل اللي نفسك فيه، هتعيش زي اي حد تاني. خليك انت زي ما انت، مش محتاج تعمل حاجه. خلاص ما اوسع الطريق واوسع الباب واسهل الطريق المؤدي للايه؟ واحنا هنشجعك عليه. يقولوا لهم كده. انما عشان يتصلح ويبقى انسان كويس بياخد سنين، فاضل 3 4 سنين عشان يبقى انسان طبيعي. مش عايزين يعملوا كده هم، لا طبعا غير كده ده صوتهم ده صوتهم معاك موضوع السياسه بقى فظيع.
بس هم بيشجعوا كل حاجه غلط، هم مع الاجهاض وكل
ايوه
الحاجات
انا كل
الغلط.
ده ما انتش واخد بالك ان كل دي الحاجات اللي حزب المحافظين بيقفوا بقى ضدها.
الاجهاض
بقى كلها حاجات سياسيه، كلها سياسه كلها سياسه. انما تيجي تتكلمي عن الصف احنا قاعدين ساكتين ما بنتكلمش. ولا عارفين نتكلم ولا عارفين ندافع ولا عارفين نعمل اي حاجه. مش عارفين نعلم عيالنا ايه الصح ولا غلط. يس يس.
Actually, one last question. What advice do you have for our kids who go to school and deal with friends that say they're bisexual or lesbian or gay? How should they, if they're their friends, should they start talking to them? What advice do you have?
So that's a little bit more complicated question than anything. It's not simple. There is no simple answer. First of all, I know what's happening. I make sure that my kids know. And this is a developmental issue that happened to them and they have no fault. They are not at fault. So we cannot hate them, but at the same time, I cannot agree with what they're doing because what they're doing, not just from the religious point of view, from psychology, is abnormal. Psychology, biology, I just said, psychology, abnormal. Biology, abnormal. Causes diseases. We have sicknesses coming out of it. So I cannot be completely agree and to understand the difference between tolerance and, what's the other word? Approval. I don't approve. I love you, but I don't approve of what you're doing. And if I can have a connection, sometimes it's difficult. You go to the social aspect. Maybe I'm very close to someone. Maybe I can talk to them. But if I'm not close, I'm not going to talk to them. هجيب لنفسي الايه؟ الألم.
But should they be allowed to communicate with friends to
They do. I don't think. Here is something. Don't be afraid. Don't have the homophobia. Our kids are not going to be changed. Their identity are not going to be changed by being friends. ماشي؟ اللي احنا شرحناه بيقول ايه؟ هل صحابي الجيز ممكن يغيروا البريفرنس بتاعي؟ وابتدي مزاجي انه احنا رايحين كليوباترا بدل المونت؟ هل الاصحاب ممكن يعملوا فيها كده؟ في الموضوع ده؟ ما هو ده اللي بيقوله، هو بيقول لك ايه؟ It's a matter of preference. هقول لك if you try gay you will never go back. بيقولوا كده احيانا. Try it. Right? هل ممكن واحد يضغط عليا انا اعمل خطيه لو انا عارف انها خطيه؟ ها؟ بس هو احنا بنتكلم على السن الصغير قوي خلي بالك ولا السن اللي هو لو هو هيحصل مع بعد الشرع اي حاجه يقول لك I will give it a try. They will not like it because it doesn't fulfill anything.
بس سمح لنفسه حاجه.
انا بقى الخطيه مش نهايه الموضوع. بس انا عايز اقول ده الاكستريم. انا بتكلم على لما يعني عشان انا عايز اشوف نفسي انا خايف من ايه. اما بخاف من حاجه اقول اخرتها ايه؟ ايه اخرتها؟
بس دي حاجه كبيره عند الاهل يا
اخرتها خطيه.
طب ما حاجه كبيره عند الاهل برضه.
البعد عن ربنا دي خطيه كبيره.
ما هو بس انا عايز اقول اخرتها ايه؟ انا بتكلم من ناحيه الكنيسه دلوقتي. اخرتها ايه؟ لما الولد اقعد اقول له يا ابني ما تمشيش مع البت، انتوا داخلين في سكه غلط، انت لسه مش جاهز للجواز. ويغلطوا، الدنيا خلصت؟ ايه لو ما فيش فيها عيل الدنيا ما خلصتش، لكن لو فيها عيل نص خلصت. انا دايما اقول لهم كده خلي بالكم ان السكه دي فيها ايه؟ عيل. لو ولد بنت، لو انت جاهز تبقى اب عندك 14 سنه تضيع مستقبلك ماشي كمل. او لو في الحكايه الثانيه دي فيها امراض جنسيه مليانه اشكال والوان من الامراض اللي مالهاش حل. لكن انا عايز اقول اخرتها ايه؟ يجرب. لما هيجرب انتوا باللي احنا قلناه ده كله هينفع انه يكمل في التجربه؟ لو ما عندوش الاحتياج من جوه انه يلاقي حد تاني يديله الرجوله بتاعته مش هيكمل، مش هتعجبه. ها؟ ماشي حتى لو حصل بس مش هتعجبه، مش هيبقى مبسوط، هيبقى قرفان من نفسه.
People outside are different than us. يعني they keep dragging you into
Yes,
things
yes.
that you don't want to do, but they can
Right.
keep doing
But even if they try it, a heterosexual person will never enjoy a homosexual relationship. Never. ببساطة اللي احنا قلنا السبب بتاعها ايه؟ الاحتياج مش موجود. He doesn't need another man. Normal man needs a woman.
And a normal woman needs a man. And the man feels more like a man when he sleeps with a woman. And the woman feels more like a woman when she sleeps with a man. But then a man who sleeps with a man needs to feel actually a man. To start from scratch. And he cannot get it from a man. There will be no...
Kids don't know that.
Huh?
Kids don't know all that information.
Man, how will it? Some people don't learn by talking. They learn by some. But then when they do it, what happens? Do I expect them to continue? No, I don't expect them to, because there's no need. Yes.
I had one first year in college, and the kids around him, they push him. Are you chicken? We are drinking beer. Started with drinking. He said, I don't like it. I tried before at home, and I don't feel good. I don't like it. Are you chicken? Your parents is not here. And they push him to drink. The guy, he has very allergic. He doesn't know. And he went to the hospital. And ended, he's in the hospital. And his friends around him, and they call his parents. So, trying, or pushing, try this. This we have in the first year in the high school in Natick, they make a questionnaire. In this time, the homosexuality, it wasn't, كانوش عندهم نجاح. And they sent a questionnaire to Abuna, I think Abuna Mina this time, and Heidi, they bring it to the church, and they make a meeting in this time with all the parents, because we are in church. If we complain, we are a church, always complain. Nobody will listen. But they made like a meeting for all the parents for the high school in Natick, and they go to the principal, and the principal, he found out that he doesn't know anything about this new teacher. The questionnaire mentioned, you judge, did you try? Did you, don't judge anything without trying. This was a teacher, a gay teacher just hired in a high school in Birmingham. And when all the parents made the meeting with the principal, they dropped this, they took it out, this questionnaire, and all the parents in this time, they successfully took this questionnaire out, which is confused all the kids. Because it comes like did you try? How come you say this no good? Did you try? You have to try. Don't judge anything. Don't take. So it's a way of the devil to anatomy for the sin. So the only thing you have to put it in the kid's mind from Genesis. We mentioned God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And this is the only, I got it. God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Is there any questions more? Huh? Thank Abuna. We make a promise to come in the next time we have to talk about who doesn't believe in God in the head. So Abuna made this about the head. Anytime. And the next subject is very important that الشغل التقاء في الهاي سكول بياخدوها فبيجوا العيال كلهم confused. فدي الحاجات اللي هي
Something small about this and then one thing about احنا بس سريع كده انا حاجه سريعه.
Yes, and just a small thing to talk about when you talk about atheism. What is the theory, Michael, Michael Wassef, what is the theory that explains the beginning of the universe? That everybody agrees on today. Michael? Michael is busy. He's doing a research. Yes, what is the theory that explains the beginning?
Big
Big Bang.
Bang
Everybody
theory.
agrees on it, by the way.
Yes.
All scientists agrees on the Big Bang. What does the Big Bang say? Anybody knows? Just simple. Yes. Jonah. Yeah, go ahead. Your name again. Andy. Can't hear you. So actually there was nothing. First it was nothing. And there, at one point, there was what they call a singularity. What's a singularity? A very, very small, right?